Hi, I'm Reverend Asha Burson-Johnson. My preferred pronouns are she, her, and I'm doing a little recap of our conscious conversation from last night. Our Center for Spiritual Living is on hiatus for a while, definitely July and August. We'll see what happens after that. And in the meantime, we occasionally have friends over for what we call conscious conversation. And I've committed to post a little recap from each of those each week. And so here's what we talked about last night. We talked about the idea, our affirmation had to do with being aware of the shifting waves of everyday life, and also being aware that we have the choice to sink down deeply into the calm waters, deep, deep, deep within ourselves. At every given moment, we have the waves and we have the deep, calm depths. Even when there are currents in the bottom of the ocean, they seem to move more smoothly and more quietly, not everywhere, but in many places. So it's a good metaphor for us. So we asked the question, where in your life are you noticing the ruffling of the waves? And where in your life are you noticing the calm? When we notice the ruffling, do we consciously feel it, acknowledge it, and then move to something deeper? Often it can just take the space of a breath to get us to sink in. So we talked a little bit about that last night. We shared with each other experiences that we'd been having. And the other interesting phenomena that we're all noticing is that when we are starting to work in one area of our life, many areas of our life begin to expand and become visible in ways that they never were visible before. So many of us are involved in a program called 12 Steps to Recovery from White Conditioning, and also reading a book called My Grandmother's Hands, which has a lot of somatic exercises, body exercises, that help us to release deeply held trauma from lives before we were ever even aware we were alive. And so many of us are noticing that as we are doing this work, paying attention to where in our lives we've felt ignorant, where we have suddenly begun to have deeper awareness of our own ignorance, and having a curiosity and a willing to learn and discover more about what we've believed so that we can choose what we choose to believe now instead. We're noticing how that shows up in other areas of our life, with our communications with our beloveds, noticing patterns that we've carried forward into relationships that are very old, that have no bearing on the current relationships, but that we've carried forward from the past. And so if we do that with our beloveds, maybe we do that in other areas of the world and our experience as well. Maybe we've carried forward beliefs that were never ours, but came from outside of us, that we picked up through many, many reasons. And now, as we begin to become aware of that, can we let it go? Can we say, this is new information. Maybe I will look at that and discover if that's true for me, and then make a choice. One of our congregants and my new adopted uncle, well, new in the last 4 or 5 years, his name is Larry. He's also known as the Peaceful Drummer. He's a deep, deep thinker. He's been doing spiritual work and diving into religious science, science of mind, New Thought, Centers for Spiritual Living philosophy for decades, for a very, very, very long time. And he was going through some of his old writings. He's also, years and years ago, was deeply involved in NEST, which is now known as Landmark. Lots of personal growth work. And he anchors in pretty well. But occasionally, like all of us, he gets caught by something. Maybe it's a current mood or something that seems to be happening in the world today. And often it's something deeper, something that's very old, that's made its way to the surface in a particular environment. So he shared with us last night a beautiful process that he does quite often, that he hadn't remembered about for a long time, but going through some paperwork, he located it. And if you're willing, I'd love for you to go through this process with me. I'm going to read it. It's a prayer and also a meditation. So I would call it a prayer process. So the first thing that I invite you to do is think of a feeling or a thought that limits your life. It doesn't have to be the most important one or the best one. Just see what arises when I say those words. Think of a feeling or a thought that limits your life. Now, while I read this, I invite you to imagine that you are speaking these words for yourself. Spirit, go to my beginnings and locate the cause or reason for this feeling or thought. Take my very most adult understanding, forgiving, reasoning, spiritual higher self to that first situation that caused this feeling or thought to start. Analyze every aspect of it and resolve it perfectly and permanently. Come forward in time, analyzing and resolving every similar incident built upon the foundation of the first, until I'm at the present, filled with light and truth, God's peace and love, and I am joyful, enthused about life, happy, excited, and feel confident of my own abilities, and I feel great love for myself and others. Know that every physical problem and inappropriate behavior based on the old feeling or thought quickly disappears. Take all the time you need, Spirit, and quicken time and do the job now. Thank you, Spirit, for coming to my aid and helping me attain the full measure of my creation. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Take a deep breath. I like the idea of turning it over to Spirit to take care of it. We don't have to use our head or a rationale to figure it out. We don't have to remember the incident that began the story that unraveled through the rest of our life. Spirit, go to my beginnings and locate the cause or reason for this feeling or thought. And then take my highest adult understanding and resolve it perfectly and permanently. And then come forward in time in my life and resolve every similar incident built upon the foundation of the first until I am the presence of love. I invite you to practice this if it calls to you. I'm also going to attach to this video a hard copy of this prayer. I invite you to try it whenever you feel the urge and just see what happens out of curiosity. I'm grateful for you and the world, and I look forward to speaking with you again next week. Bye.